Hmm. Does anyone have any questions about anything, about something you came across, a word you didn't understand in your studies? All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Put everything together. Yeah, most High will lead us tonight. Okay, praise Yah. I think we stopped off on Yom Shilishi. They were dealing with this Malak, who is the messenger. Okay. Again, anytime you mention the word Malak, that's someone who's delivering a message on behalf of someone else. So what it is, it's impossible. Okay, I want to say this again. It is impossible for the Most High to be identified as an angel. Okay, he's not an angel, and in Hebrew it's called a Malak. He's not a Malak. Okay, he's not. He has Malaks. He has several levels of Malaks, but he's not a Malak. Okay, so anytime he sends one, that Malak that he's sending is coming to deliver a message. So, and also too, the Malak of Yahweh is one who is assigned, to us as a people, right? So, which is the one who Yehoshua saw when he was about to go to battle. He said, "Are you here for us, or you are against us?" And he was called the Sar. He was the captain of Yahweh's army, and he was a Malak. Yah always sends Malaks to deliver his message. He does not leave his throne. Okay, he doesn't leave his throne. We also see in the book of Isaiah where Isaiah had a vision. Okay, and then they said, well, who's the one who showed up? Didn't Yahweh come down and visit Abraham? There's one who may have come down on Yahweh's behalf. You understand? So he might send someone to come and talk to him. And then when that Malak gets there, he talks directly to him. Okay. I'm going to show you an example of that, because this is a big issue for people. Because when you talk about who the Malak of Yahweh is, often people get confused and they think he's an angel, and they're really in trouble for that because he's not. We have in the book of Genesis, okay, which is this book we call Bereshith. Here's a best example for us. I was on a debate one time, and somebody asked me, well, how can you prove that? I'm going to show you how I was able to prove it. You all are familiar with the story when the Most High had asked Abraham to bring Yitzchak to him to a certain mountain, okay, to tell him, they come and sacrifice him, okay? So let's just begin in verse number 9. They came to a place that Elohim had told him about, and Abraham built an altar there, and he set wood in order, but found Yitzchak his son and laid him on the altar on the wood. Then Abraham put out his hand, and he took the knife to kill his son. But the Malak of Yahweh, not the angel, the Malak of Yahweh called to him out of heaven, Abraham, Abraham. And he answered, here I am. Okay. So often they think this is Christ of the New Testament, or they may think it's the Most High. It's not the Most High. Okay. It's a Malak of Yah. It's a messenger of Yahweh. Okay. So this Malak calls out to him out of heaven. He heard his voice. He said, Abraham, Abraham. And he answered, here I am. Hine, I'm at your service. He said, don't lay your hand on the boy. Don't do anything to him. For now, I know that you are a man who fears Elohim. I know this now. See, because you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Who? The Malak of Yahweh? So that's who's talking here. No. So it's obvious that the Abraham is being instructed by a messenger of Yahweh. Yahweh is using this Malak to talk to him, as he does in so many other places. Okay. Just like the Most High said when Moses and them were going to go into the land, Moses said, who are you going to send? You haven't told us who you're going to send before us. And then the Most High said, I'm going to send this Moloch, and my name is inside of him. And guess what? He will not forgive. Why? Because that's one of the ones that he said, I'm sending. He won't forgive. He said, if you say anything or do anything against any words that he says, he's not going to forgive you, because that's what he was built for. Okay. So Abraham raised his eyes and he looked behind him. There was a ram caught in the bushes by its horns. Abraham went and he took the ram and he offered up as a burnt offering in the place of his son. Abraham called the place the Makom Yahweh Yireh. Okay. Yireh means to see. Yahweh will see what? And they put in here to it. Okay. Which is not, that's something that they added to the text. It's not he will see to it. Yahweh sees. That's what it is. Yireh means he sees. Okay. Yahweh provides. Okay. They put that in there. As it says to this day, on the mountain, Yahweh is seen. Okay. So is the ram Yahweh? No. No. Okay. So Christianity, they get stuck on this. Listen to this. And verse number 15 says who? The Moloch of Yahweh called to Abraham a second time. Okay. And he said, I have sworn by myself, says Yahweh. Yahweh is using the Moloch to say what he told Abraham. Okay. He says, because you have done this, this is the message that he's delivering. Listen to this. Do you see these quotation marks right here? They don't stop until you get right here. So everything that's going to be said from here all the way down is Yahweh talking through this Moloch. He says, I swore by myself, says Yahweh, that because you have done this, because you haven't withheld your son, your only son, I will most certainly bless you, and I most certainly will increase your descendants to as many as there are stars in the sky and grains of the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will possess the cities of their enemies, and by your descendants, all the nations of the earth will be blessed, because you obeyed my order. Okay? You've done what I've asked you to do. That's why this is going to happen, right? So that's what a Moloch is used for, to deliver a message. So going back here in our Torah portion, it says, I forgot verse we're in. 16. The same Moloch that was speaking to him, that has always been with him, is the same one that's been with our fathers, Abraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov. The same Moloch here is the one that spoke to our father Abraham. Okay. This is the same Moloch that is going to be with the children of Israel when they're going into the land of their enemies. It's the same Moloch that's in the book of Joshua. Okay. So this one has been assigned to our father. And so the thing about it is that we have to ask ourselves, what type of people are we that the Most High is sending messengers? How important are we that he has to send a Moloch to speak to him? How important is it that he's asking the Moloch that Yah has used to put the blessing? Okay, so listen to this, because everybody wants a personal relationship with the Most High. They want to see him, they want to touch him, they want to feel him, but that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. No human being will ever be able to come that close to Yah. So he has messengers who will come and speak for him. He has messengers who will come, deliver the message, who will actually do things for them, who will fight for them. Okay. We're a different type of people. We are a celestial people. You understand? So the Most High, he thinks very highly of us by giving us access to him and access to those who are around him. Okay. So he's asking this Moloch here, who had rescued me from all of my harm. He asked that Moloch to bless these boys. That's who he asked. He asked the one who Yahweh has been sending, this one, to bless the boys. The same one who's been redeeming. This is not rescued in terms of a past tense, but an ing, always who's redeeming me. He's constantly redeeming me from anything that can happen. May they remember who I am and what I stand for. And likewise, my fathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, who they were and what they stood for. And may they grow into teeming multitudes on the earth. Okay. That's what he's asking this Malach to do. And his phrase is right here from this quotation all the way to this quotation. That right there is the blessing. Okay. That's who he's asking. He's asking this one, the one who has the ability to confer this blessing, the one who's going to be able to transfer the name, his name, and what he and who he is upon these two sons, because that's who he's asking, these boys. He didn't ask this for his other sons. He asked it for these two boys. Okay. So what name did he put on these two boys? Israel. That's the name that he asked the Malach, because that is the one who gave him the name. Remember the one he wrestled with? Right? He wrestled with him and he says, what's your name? He said, remember, he asked Yaakov, what's your name? He said, I ain't gonna let you go till you bless me. See? So the same one who gave him the blessing is the same one that he's asking for to place a blessing on these two boys, Ephraim and Manasseh. Okay, not just one of them, both of them. And he's doing this in place of Yosef. He says, I want them to remember who I am and what I stand for. I want them to likewise remember who? My fathers, Abraham and Yitzchak, and who they were and what they stood for. Okay, and that right there is the blessing. So they can what? Grow, because remember, blessing always has to do with multitudes on the earth, just like we just saw in Genesis chapter number 22, just like we see in Genesis chapter number 15, just like we see in Genesis chapter number 17, just like we see in all the promises of the Most High to help us grow and to multiply, because he wants to continue the seed. And the reason why it can continue is because you and I is what they call it in the book of Isaiah as a blessed seed. Okay, so the blessed seed is not just running around with a whole bunch of riches. The blessed seed is a family that continues forever, from generation to generation. Okay, and everything that we learn and everything that we go through and everything we experience has to be able to be transmitted down to our children. So you can see the blessing of the Most High right now. Okay, in the fact that he's making us aware about who our family is. Okay, so yeah, we're not in our land, right? But are you learning about who? Are you remembering Yaakov right now? Yeah, you are. Are you learning from Genesis, or better sheaf? Are you learning about Abraham and Yitzchak?
Yes.
Yes, you are. Are you learning how they walk with the Most High and how they live their lives and how they were faithful to him? Are we not learning about what they stood for? You understand? So that's the deal. He wants to know, he wants them to remember what he stood for and what his father stood for. Somebody give me an idea about what did he stand for? Let's talk about what did Yaakov stand for? Let's just start with him first. What did Yaakov stand for?
Resilience.
When he's saying this, what is he saying? Is easy. There you go. You just nailed it right there. That's what I was about to write. It's easy. It's righteousness. The very thing that the Christians tell you that you can't get, that you don't have. They tell you that this is impossible for you to have. They tell you if you try to keep Yah's laws, you can't keep Yah's laws. They're going around saying that you're trying to establish your own self-righteousness, that this is impossible. Is that what they told us? That you can't do this? That this is impossible without what? Some innocent person dying for you. Let me pause for a moment and tell you about that Abraham, righteousness was imputed to him, not because he believed Elohim, but because he was caused to believe in the Most High. The Most High had to give him what he needed in order for him to be who he was. He had to supply him with what he needed. And the only difference is that Abraham had is he had what you would call a willingness. The Most High did not force him to leave his land. He literally asked him to leave. He asked him, okay, in a form of a command, excuse me. The one was lek lekha. That means to walk after me, to get up and take your staff in your hand and go where I tell you to go. Did he not? He did, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Did he tell Yaakov, did he tell Yitzchak anything? Did he tell him where to stay? Yeah. What did he tell him to do? I want you guys to follow me on this. What did he tell him to do? You have to remember, you got to know your story, okay? So let's look at it. What did he say? Write it down in your book so you'll know. What did he tell him? If Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, we just learned on Shalishi that Abraham is not a friend. He's actually someone the Most High loves and is loving, okay? Genesis chapter number 26, Bereshith in the Hebrew tongue. A famine came over the land, not the same as the first famine, which had been taking place when Abraham was alive. Going back to our stories, that you're always going to have famine. And Yah says, I use famine to get people's attention. Yitzchak went to Gerar and Avimelech, the king of Philistine. That's where he went. Yahweh appeared to him. How did he appear to him? He appeared to him in a vision. And he told him, don't go down to Mitzrayim. Don't go down to Mitzrayim, but live where I tell you. Stay in this land. Okay? So what I want you to do, because remember, I'm teaching you how to read the Torah. Look for the quotations and follow that right here. That lets you know when the Most High began to speak and when he stopped, and listen to what he said. We just read in Genesis chapter number 22 what he said in the quotation through his Malach. Don't go down into Egypt, but live where I tell you. Stay in this land, right? What land was he in? He went to Gerar, which is part of the land of Canaan, right? That I'll give you, and listen, stay in the land, in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. Because I will give all these lands to you and your descendants. I will fulfill the oath in which I swore to Abraham, your father. I will, I will, I will, I will. I will make your descendants, listen to this, that bless you. Look, I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky. Didn't he just tell Abraham that in chapter number 22? Yes, he did, through his Malach. I will give all these lands to your descendants. And by your descendants, all the nations of the earth will bless themselves. By these people, by the individuals are the descendants of your family. They're going to be in all the earth. And what does he mean by I'm going to bless all the nations of the earth will bless themselves by your descendants? What he's talking about is that the people of the earth are going to bend the knee to your descendants. That's who they're going to, when they talk about bless, They can't, listen, they can't bless us like Yah blesses us. The blessing that we look for is the one that comes from him. We shouldn't look for the so-called the nation's blessings. We want the blessing to come from him. And the words that he's speaking are the same identical words that he spoke to Abraham. He said this, except for the stay in this land. He says, I'll bless them. Your descendants will be numerous as the stars in the sky. And I'll give all these lands. Why? All this is because Abraham, the one that I'm loving, he did what I said. He did what I told him to do. He followed my mitzvot, my regulations, and my teachings, which is the Torah. That's what he followed. He followed my instructions. So therefore, he settled in Gerar. So what do we have in common? We have in common everything that Yah says, which is always includes the blessing of to enumerate your descendants. Everything that our fathers have done up to this point, everyone, is for us. Question: did Abraham inherit all the land? Did he physically
His
get the
descendants-
deed? His descendants did. Did Yitzchak inherit the land of Yisrael? No. Did Yaakov? Was he ever in a land of peace?
No.
So our father, and this is where the Christians get you, because they're telling you that Abraham, he was faithful, even though he didn't receive any of the promises. They're replacing what the promise was. The promise has to do with the lands. The promise has to do with descendants. Everything has always been about us. Their faithfulness to Yah is about us. And it's very important for us to understand this. They haven't received anything, but they did everything they did for us. This is the reason why Yaakov says in our portion, our Torah portion this week, where he tells, or he asks and requests the blessing on these two boys to bring them into the family, because he wanted them to inherit. He wanted them to be part of the inheritance. That's what this was about, okay? So that's why he asked him in verse 17 says, when Yosef saw his father laying his right hand on Ephraim's head, it displeased him. Matter of fact, it said it was raw in his eyes, meaning it was horrible, it was evil. And he lifted up his father's hand and he tried to remove it. It wasn't he removed it. He tried to remove it from Ephraim's head and place it instead on Manasseh's head. Yosef said to his father, don't do that. Don't do it that way, my father, for this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused, okay? He refused. Interesting enough, this word right here is very, very powerful from a Hebraic perspective, okay? And it's called ma'an, okay? And it's a mem, it's an aleph, and it's a nun, okay? And when I find, and so we know that the aleph, of course, is a child root. We know the other two letters, the mem and the nun, are the parents. Okay, so I'm always going to have to go to the Hebrew, right? So this one here is the nun, and the nun means a seed, okay, which means to continue. What does the mem represent?
Water.
Water, okay. It also means any type of fluid, and that fluid can be blood. It could be semen. It could be any type of fluid, okay? Any type of watery type of substance, okay? So what this means is, in case of this being the water, since it's a fluid, it could be the blood. So what this means is that the blood continues. That's what it means, okay? It's the same root that has to do with this idea of what we would call a species. Okay. Because when we're talking about a species, okay, it could be a species of humans, it could be a species of animals, and it can also be a species of plants. Okay. So you're always going to have these elements, and I should have put it in green. I think that would have been appropriate color when we're talking about this. Okay. So species. Okay. So what it is from one human to the next human, they pass on their DNA material. They pass on through their blood. Okay. Just like you have with the animals as well. So a species is what they would call a type or a kind. Okay. That's what it is. So when it says that his father refused, we would look at that and say, okay, he just said no. That's what he said. He just refused to do it. He was just stubborn. He didn't want to do it. It's deeper than that. What it means is that his father understood something about the kind. Okay. So in order for the species, in order for the human being, which passes through the blood, which also passes not only blood, but they pass on the seed. That's how they pass on their material, through the blood to the seed. Okay. So if he refused because he understood the importance of this blessing had to be put upon the person who was going to hold the seed that would be able to continue. But not only do I want it to continue, but in the case of it being one of the sons, his name is Ephraim. Why Ephraim, according to what we've been learning? Why Ephraim? Why does it have to continue with him? Because Ephraim means fruitful. Within his name is called Farah or Para, and Para means to be fruitful, means bountiful. Okay. He also mentions the place where their grandmother died, Rachel. She died on a place called Ephratah. And there is Para again. You see Ephraim and the Phra, Phra. So he understood. He understood based on where she died. See? She died in the place which they call the heath, the place of bread, the place of fruitfulness, the place of the seed. Remember, our blessings have to do with food. So, but you can't have food if you don't have a seed, right? You don't have the harvest, you don't have the wheat, you don't have the barley. So the Most High is giving us clues about how he talks to us. He's talking to us through agriculture. He's talking to us through human experience, through the human body. He uses our eyes, our ears, our nose, everything. We just think it's for smelling, tasting, and hearing and smelling. Okay? It's not. It's more than that. Okay? I want to share something later on with you about, I've said it before, I'll even say it right now, because I don't know if I have till Shabbat. I'll tell it to you right now. In the Hebrew, your lips are bow. They're the bow. And a bow is supposed to shoot the arrows. Okay, and you have a tongue. So if your lips are the bow, there's two of them okay. But you also have, you have a tongue, but you also have what they would call a spear. All right. So your tongue is your spear. It's like your sword. Okay, you use your tongue for your sword. You could really cut somebody up really, really bad with it. Okay. What's your arrows? If you shot bows, if you shot your lips off, what are the arrows?
The words.
Your words.
Yes. Yes. So when you hear Dawid talking about they're shooting arrows at me, he ain't talking about just the ones that they shoot physically. He's talking about the ones that they're shooting out of their mouth. Words are very, very powerful. They can either pierce you, they can help you, they can destroy you. That's why it's important for us to be careful about the words that we speak. You understand? I just wanted to share that with you. So tying up the kind, he says he refused because he understood that the species in which we want to pass the information on to, the DNA material, the blessing, it's important to make sure that the blessing is passed on to the proper people, because if it's not passed on to the right person, then it's going to fail. So you and I have to have an awareness about who and what should be receiving the blessing. You can't hand, and the blessing could be the words, just like the curse. You could give off a curse to somebody, and you could give off a blessing to somebody. But you got to make sure that you're giving it to the right person. You can't ask somebody that doesn't have the mental fortitude, okay, or the discipline to be the chosen seed. Let me show you how important you are to the Most High. You really think that you were just arbitrarily chosen? You really think that he arbitrarily showed up at your house and said, I want to talk to you? You think that was some coincidence?
No.
You think that you and I are learning the Hebrew language just on an accident? It just fell into our laps and we don't know how it happened? No. Yah knows what he's doing. Listen carefully. He's passing on the information. Just like our father Yaakov had refused to put his hand on somebody's hand that meant to forget and toil and sorrow. That wasn't an accident. You think you come to class every on Yom Shalishi and Yom Kamishi and Shabbat, and you even stay on for Hebrew? You think that's on an accident? You think that's a coincidence? You think we're learning about agriculture and our bodies and how it works and the seed and all this for nothing? Like we're just, we're learning the Bible. No. The Most High is very, very deliberate in what he's doing. Your selection process is on purpose. Just like Yaakov knew what he was doing and he refused to put his hand on the head of the wrong person in order to appease his son. His son thought it was evil. He thought, surely you're making a mistake. And what did his father say? His father said, he refused. He said, I know that. Verse number 19, my son, I know that. I know it. I'm intimate with it. I know it. He too, talking about Manasseh too, will become a people. He will be a great people. And he too will be great. That ain't the point. The point is putting it on the right person. Nevertheless, his younger brother will be greater. It's not because he just wants him to be greater. It's because that's who Yahweh chose to be greater. Yah knows who we are, and he knows what our abilities are. He knows what we're capable of doing. He knows who he's giving it to. Yah's telling us, I know you want everybody in your family to be saved. But that's, you gotta get rid of that. It's not who I chose. I chose you. I know, I know. That means he has respect to persons. Did he not choose David out of everybody in the children of Israel and out of the tribe of Judah?
Yes.
Does David brag on it? Does he say that he chose me and my family? Does he brag on it?
Yes.
He brags on it. And so should you. Okay? You need to brag on that. Don't try to negotiate with these people about, hey, we're all the same. No, we're not. Then he added this blessing on them that day. Listen, he added this on them, on these two boys. Yisrael, not himself, not Yaakov. He's talking about his sons and the nation. The nation will speak of you in their own blessings. Why? Because they're going to recognize, may Elohim make you like Ephraim and Manasseh. Thus he put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. The children of Israel from here on out are going to say this. May Elohim make you like Ephraim and Manasseh. That is a great honor. So is everyone equal? Huh? No. Everyone's not equal, people. Everyone's not equal. He didn't say, may Elohim make you like Naphtali and Gad. He said, may Elohim make you like Ephraim and Manasseh. Why? Because of how great they're going to be and because of how much they're going to grow. Because that's what life is all about. Life is about growing. Life is about development. Life is about going from one stage to the next. In every area of your life, you have to hit certain markers. You understand why you're alive? You should be trying to live. See, I think this is the problem. I don't think we know how to live. I think we want people to teach us how to live. And Jan says, if you follow the way that I told you to live, you'll understand what life is really about. Life is about growth and development. And it's about growing and developing what? The seed. Those of you who are about to get married, you know who you are. You're going to have to develop a seed for the Most High. That's your job. See, because that's the blessing. See, we've gone too far. We've displaced him with religion. That's not what it's about. Everything that you and I work for is for the continuation of the seed. Everything our father went through was for us. Why are you screaming? Because it's hitting me. It's coming to me. Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov had us in mind. He had it in mind. Listen carefully. Dawid, please stop yelling at me. Just tell me what it is. I can't. I have to tell you that they knew what it was, and you should too. Because if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going. Genesis 15 says this. Sometime later, the word of Yahweh came to Abraham in a vision. Don't be afraid, Abraham. I'm your protector. Your reward will be very great. Abraham replied, Yahweh, Elohim, what good will your gifts be to me if I continue? What? What was he after? He's after the child. That's what he wanted, people. This man had wealth, he had silver, he had gold, he had donkeys and oxen and servants and tents. He wanted a child, he wanted a seed. What good would any of this stuff be? I don't care how many houses you build. I don't care how many work hours you give. It has to be about someone else. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it exciting. That gives you a goal. He said, you haven't given me a child. Avram continued, someone born in my house will be my heir. And the word of Yahweh came to him. The word of Yahweh. Oh, well, this is Christ of the New Testament. No, it's not. Quotation, this man, Eleazar, the one that I'm going to send to go find a wife for your husband or for your son. No, he's not going to be your heir. No. Your heir will be a child from your own body. Don't tell me there ain't no blessing. That's what he was after. Oh, somebody needs to say, praise be to the living Elohim. He wasn't after nothing else but a child. That's all he wanted. What did Sarah want? All she wanted was a child. And if Yah has given you a child, he's given you a blessing. And if he's giving you children, you're supposed to raise them up to him and bless his name. Remember, he tells us to teach your children and their children and their children's children. It's about a child. And that's why the Christians turn around and use it and say, well, a child will be born and, that's Christ. No, it's not. This child was called Laughter, by the way. Just in case we didn't know who the seed was, it's him. And he's a blessed seed. That's why you should be laughing. because he laughed when he found out about it. Are you kidding me? Is this what it's been about? Yes. Then he brought him outside in the vision and said, look up at the sky, count the stars. If you can't count them, because you can't. Dr. Ured, Dr. Kavika, Pamela, Renee, Fanta, Anthony, Dawid, Rivqua, all of you, Kent, Kid, Ted, all of you. Can't count you. You won't be able to count them. You will not be able to count how many children I will give to you. That's going to come out your own body. They're going to be like the stars. I made your descendants like the stars. Did he see these descendants? Nah, he didn't see them. He didn't. It said he believed in Yahweh. You and I both know that I know the language, and you do too. This is a hifel. And tell me what's a hifel.
Positive.
It's a causative verb. He caused him to believe. Yahweh caused him. And I'm going to prove it. And he credited to him, Yahweh credited him as righteousness. They told you couldn't be righteous. But I told you this is what it's all about. Yah puts a person on the path. Yah is putting him on the path to walk, to get to the place where he needed to get to him so he can have a vision and Yah can talk to him. Sometimes we're looking for something more when all it is Yah wants to speak to us. We want more for that. That's your righteousness. Yah caused him to believe. And because Yah caused that, it was then given to him as righteousness. Yah put him in a position to become righteous. Yah qualified him. Without the words of Yahweh, there won't be no qualification for this. And you can forget about this. Then he said to him, listen what he said to him after he caused him to believe. He said to him, I am Yahweh, who brought you out from Ur Kasdim. Have you see a theme here? Who brought you out? I brought you out of your land to give you this land as what? A possession, as your possession. I want to put it in your hand. And not only your hand, but I want to put it in the hand of all your descendants. If you and I would understand what this really literally means, then we would get away from people that are talking something other than this, because this is all Yah has ever told him. This was the reason for him walking through the land, folks. This is the reason why he fought those kings that he did in chapter number 14. This is the reason why Melchizedek came and visited him. This is the reason why he was willing to offer up his son. This is the reason why he got rid of Hagar. Yah said, you know what? Listen to your wife. Now, I'm going to prove to you that Yahweh caused him to believe. He said here, what did he say? He replied, Yahweh, Elohim, how am I to know that I will possess it? See? So if that was a faith that was from within himself, the faith that he had in verse number 6, why is it missing in verse number 8? If he really, like the Christians say, he believed. If he believed so much, why is he asking this big question right here? How will I know that I will possess it? He believed him for a child, according to what they tell us. So why isn't he believing him for the land? Because the land is something that he's actually standing on. Is giving him a child that he couldn't have harder and more difficult than it is for him to get this whole entire land that Yah says? It seems like both of them seem impossible, doesn't it? You see? He can literally see the land. And he's been walking on it, living on it, and, you know, making some friends here and there, you understand? And some enemies. Yah promises him this and says this, because he asked the question, how am I to know that I will possess it? He answered him, bring me a 3-year-old cow, a 3-year-old female goat, and a 3-year-old ram. No sheeps. A dove and a young pigeon. So he brought him all these, and he cut the animals in two, which is making a covenant with him, and placed the pieces opposite each other, because that's what you do in the covenant. You cut the animals straight in half, okay? You don't do it to the birds, though. You just, wring their necks off, but you don't cut them in half, okay? The birds of prey, they swooped down on the carcasses, but Abraham drove them away. And the sun was about to set in a deep sleep, and Araphel, a very deep, hard sleep fell on him. And horror and great darkness came over him. Yahweh said to Abraham, know this for certain, your descendants will be foreigners in a land that is not theirs. They will be slaves, and they will be held in oppression there for 400 years. But I will judge that nation, the one that makes them slaves. Afterward, they will leave with many possessions. So a lot of people think that he's talking about the Mitzrayim right here. The children of Israel were not in the land of Mitzrayim for 400 years. Okay. They were in there for 430 years to the day. Okay. The 400 years here, okay, listen to this. And out of this 430 years that the children of Israel are going to go and they were living in Egypt, 215 of them, they were slaves. And that was not the first 215, but is actually the second. So the first 215, they were there and they were living with, wealth, substance, getting along with everybody. They were free. They had freedom. They weren't slaves. Okay. The next 215, if you put 215 and 215 together, you get 430. They were slaves under Pharaoh's rule for 215 years. So this 400 years right here does not qualify. It doesn't qualify. It doesn't qualify for what he's talking about right here. My point of bringing this here is to let you understand. I say that our fathers know what is going to happen to us. Okay. So if he told this to Avram, who did Avram tell? Who would it make sense for Avram to tell?
His descendants.
He's going to tell Yitzchak. Why? Because you don't think they're telling each other? Like they don't have a relationship? They don't talk to each other about what the Most High said? They're passing the information on, folks. So it went from Yitzchak and he told his sons. Well, more specifically, we know that he told Yaakov. Yah's words are going from generation to generation. He said that you would teach your children to fear me, and they would go in my ways. That's what he said. He said that to Abraham. And he told him he's going to die in his good old age. Let's take one little pit stop. That's very important. Chapter number 18 of Genesis, verse number 17 tells us this. Yahweh said this. And listen, what are we looking for when Yahweh speaks? What am I looking for? What's the first thing I'm looking for? I taught you tonight. You're looking for those quotations. You're looking for those quotations. Because what you don't want to do is add to what he said. So right there it says, should I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? And as much as Abraham is sure to become a great and strong nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed by him, meaning they're going to bend the knee to him and his descendants. For I have made myself known to him, so that he will give what? Orders, commands to his children and his household after him to keep, meaning to guard the way, the path of Yahweh. And to do what is right, which is that righteousness, which you would call in Hebrew Yashar, to do what's right, and to do what's just, and just means Zadik, okay, which is the righteousness, okay, so that Yahweh may bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. You see? Now, they said that Yahweh was with Abraham because you had these men who set out to go to Sodom and Gomorrah. But if you listen very carefully, the Most High is speaking through the other man that was there, that was left with him, and said to him, I have made myself known to him so that he will give his orders to his children and his household after him to keep the way of Yahweh and to do what is right and just, so that Yahweh, is Yahweh talking about himself in third person? No, somebody else is speaking on behalf of Yahweh, may give or bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. So why would the Most High be there speaking to him in the third person as if he's not there, if he was there? See? Remember, it says that 3 men came. 2 went down to go to Sodom and Gomorrah. It was 1 man that was left. And it's not Yah. It's a representative. That's why he's speaking in these terms, just like the same one that spoke in Genesis chapter number 22 is the same one that's speaking right here. Yahweh was telling him what to say. Yahweh said, see? That's what it is. My point is to bring you and say that he will give orders to his children and his household after him to guard the path of Yahweh and to do what is right and just, righteousness and Zaddik, so that Yahweh might bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. What did he promise him?
Land, descendants.
I promise you land. I promise you descendants. And guess what also? My final promise is that I will be your
Elohim.
period. Okay? Somebody tell me what are the 2 things that the Most High said that he was going to, that he asked Israel to do in the marriage proposal? What was the marriage proposal? Somebody tell me. 2 things. We're always going to go over. Don't worry.
Guard and obey.
Oh boy, there you go. I need you to Shema. That means listen and obey. And the second one is guard, which is Shamar. Okay. So we got a shin, a mem, a mem. So these are exactly the same. The last 2 letters is a ra, a resh, and an ayin. That right there means evil, and it means bad, and it means misery, and it means sorrow. So if you and I do not execute the Shamar, we don't execute the Shema, which is the first one, or we don't execute the Shamar, which is the next one, you get these 2 letters, and those will be the 2 letters left, and that's Ra, and Ra is evil, and it's wicked. So if you don't guard, and you don't obey, and you don't do what he says, then you're evil. It's right there in those 2 words. Okay, so one is called Shamar, and one's just Shema. And more specifically, the Shema is really Shemoah, meaning it's participle, meaning the constant listening, obeying. It just doesn't end. Okay, so that's the marriage proposal. So as you can see, the Most High really hasn't given a whole bunch of hard things to do. He didn't give us 1,000 things to do. He only gave us 2 things for it, and we said we'll do it. No matter how many words he says, I'm going to obey him and I'm going to guard him. Doesn't matter how many he says, because he's the master. Period. Abraham, what does he ask him to do? What he just told him, I need you to give your children orders. And those orders are called commands, which are called the Zah. I need you to give them a Zah. I need you to give them commandments. That's where you get your word mitzvot or matzavot. That's where you get it from. And I need you to guard the path. There's a way that's with Yah. And if you don't guard it and by that way and to do what is right on that path, I don't need you to guard it, but I need you to actually do. Don't forget to do. Okay? Let me ask you a question. I need to light a fire. I have sticks and I have stones. What do I have to do to start a fire? I have to create a what?
A friction.
Starts with an S.
Spark.
I have to create a spark. Praise Yah. Do you understand? I'm going to leave you with these words. If Yah tells you and I to do something, he's asking you to create a spark. I need you to get started. I'm not going to start this for you. You have to start it. You have to do it. You have to make it happen. You have to create it. If I gave you what you need, then why are you sitting asking me why we don't have a fire? You don't have the fire because you have the materials. You just ain't did nothing with them. And that's your fault. You understand? If I gave you the rain and there's food, it's your job to go out and harvest. If I give you a child, it's not my job to raise him. It's your job to raise him and to take care of him. I'll give you what you need. I gave you everything that you need. It's up to you. You have to take the materials. You have to take not only the materials, people, you have to take the opportunities when they present themselves. If they present themselves to you, Yah's not going to do it for us. You're going to have to do it for yourself. Because now we're not part of what you call the Christian game. You're not part of what they would call the religious game, where you're sitting around with your twiddling your thumbs and you're asking him to do something for you. You and I have to put the work in. Praise be to the living Elohim. You see? You and I got to do this study. We got to do the hard work. You understand? He didn't build the temple, they did. He didn't build the ark, they did. He didn't build the tabernacle, they did. I give you what you need. It's up to you to do what you need to do with it. So create a spark. And that spark can lead to a flame, and that flame can lead to a fire. And that fire can lead to a lot of things. It can lead to light, and it can lead to warmth. It can lead to, peace, Of course, if it's controlled. Hallelujah. Anyone have any questions?